Welcome back to Fusty Stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. William Collins had everything a man could dream of: wealth, a towering reputation in business, and an enviable social standing. Yet, for his mother, Victoria Collins, none of those things mattered if he chose the wrong woman to stand by his side. For weeks, Victoria had observed from a distance how quickly Charlotte Stevens had wrapped herself around her son's life. Charlotte was beautiful, elegant, and always quick with a smile, but there was something in her eyes, a gleam of ambition that disturbed Victoria. As William's mother and the widow of one of London's most successful financiers, she understood how easily fortune attracted those who valued money over love. The Collins family legacy wasn't just about wealth. It was about integrity and loyalty. That night, in the drawing room of their vast estate, Victoria made a decision that would set events in motion that neither her son nor his fiancée would ever forget. When William walked into the room, he could immediately sense the tension radiating from his mother. She told him quite plainly that she didn't trust Charlotte. William laughed at the suggestion. "Mother, Charlotte is nothing like that. I trust her with everything I have," he said firmly, his blue eyes bright with conviction. But Victoria wasn't convinced. She leaned forward, her tone sharp, her words carrying the weight of command rather than advice. "You will test her, William. I won't stand by while you throw your life away." The conversation turned heated, William resisting the very thought of it. But when his mother's voice broke, trembling with both love and fear, he reluctantly agreed. The seed of doubt had been planted, and the test was about to begin. William lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling of his penthouse apartment. He despised the idea of testing Charlotte, but his mother's insistence weighed heavily on him. Victoria was not the kind of woman who spoke without reason. She had protected the Collins empire for decades after her husband's death. She had an eye for deceit, and William couldn't shake the thought that perhaps she saw something he couldn't. Still, he loved Charlotte deeply. Her laughter warmed him. Her presence lit up every gathering, and her dreams of a future with him seemed genuine. The thought of putting her through a test felt like betrayal. Yet he had already promised his mother. It was a promise he couldn't break. The next morning, William called Charlotte and told her he was sending a maid to assist her at her apartment. She squealed with delight, thanking him for being so thoughtful. "You really know how to treat a woman, Will," she said cheerfully. He forced a smile through the phone, his chest tightening. Later, in his mother's private study, Victoria revealed her plan. "She hasn't met me, not properly. I'll go myself. I'll be the maid." William's eyes widened in disbelief. "Mother, you can't be serious. You pretend to be a maid?" The very thought of his aristocratic mother scrubbing floors was absurd. But Victoria's resolve was unshakable. "If Charlotte truly loves you, it won't matter who I am. If she doesn't, we'll both know soon enough." Charlotte had spent the entire day pacing around her chic London flat, waiting for the maid William promised. She imagined a young, timid girl who would bow at her every command. Instead, when the doorbell rang and Charlotte opened the door, she was stunned to see an older woman, dressed modestly, with gentle yet proud eyes. "Good afternoon, Miss Stevens. Mr. Collins sent me. My name is Victoria," she said softly. Charlotte raised an eyebrow, already displeased. She had expected someone younger, more submissive. "Well, you're late," Charlotte snapped, stepping aside without offering a smile. Victoria took the insult in stride, bowing her head before quietly entering the apartment. From the very first day, Charlotte treated Victoria with disdain. She barked orders at her, criticized her work, and muttered under her breath about how old maids should be retired, not hired. Victoria endured it all in silence, her heart aching as she watched the real face of the woman her son loved begin to emerge. That night, alone in her small servant's room at the back of Charlotte's flat, Victoria held her chest, torn between sorrow and determination. She reminded herself why she was there, to protect her son from a lifetime of misery. The days that followed only deepened Victoria's fears. Charlotte wasted no time in revealing her true nature. When Victoria accidentally spilled a glass of wine on the marble counter, Charlotte slapped her across the face. The sting burned, But what hurt more was the satisfaction Charlotte seemed to derive from it. "You're pathetic," Charlotte hissed, turning away with a smirk. Victoria remained composed, whispering under her breath, "For William, I'll endure this." She began keeping notes in a small leather journal, writing down every cruel word, every harsh slap, every time Charlotte denied her food. Charlotte's best friend, Emily Carter, visited often. Emily was warm, kind, and empathetic, the complete opposite of Charlotte. One evening, Emily arrived with bags of groceries and found Victoria quietly wiping her tears in the kitchen. "What happened?" she asked softly. Victoria shook her head, but Emily saw the redness in her eyes and pressed money into her hand. "Please, get yourself something to eat if she won't feed you." Victoria looked at her in astonishment. In that moment, she saw what Charlotte could never hide, Emily's genuine kindness. Victoria had begun to realize that Emily might hold the key to her son's happiness, but she needed William to see the truth for himself. Late one evening, William called to check on Charlotte. He asked her casually how the new maid was doing. Charlotte's response chilled him. "She's old, slow, and useless." "Honestly, Will, I don't know why you sent me such a burden." William felt his stomach drop. He had known Charlotte could be sharp-tongued, but this cruelty towards someone vulnerable shook him. He ended the call, unsettled and unsure what to do next. Meanwhile, Emily confronted Charlotte about her behavior. "You're being unnecessarily harsh, Charlotte. She's just trying to help." But Charlotte laughed mockingly. "She's just a servant, an old fool. Why should I waste kindness on her?" Emily's disappointment grew, though she held her tongue. She had always supported Charlotte, but the lines of loyalty were beginning to blur. Victoria, overhearing their exchange in the hallway, felt both sorrow and hope. Sorrow that her son's fiancée was proving unworthy. Hope that perhaps Emily might be the one destined to stand by his side. Charlotte began taking pleasure in humiliating Victoria. She forced her to scrub floors on her knees for hours, withheld meals, and often left her shivering in the cold while she entertained her friends. Her cruelty knew no bounds. "You should be grateful you're even in this house," Charlotte spat one morning, tossing a pile of laundry at Victoria. Emily watched in horror during one of her visits, unable to hold back any longer. "Charlotte, this is too much." "She's human." But Charlotte only rolled her eyes. "Emily, stop acting like some saint. She's just a maid." Victoria grew weaker, falling ill from the constant neglect. She coughed heavily at night, her frail body unable to endure the abuse much longer. Yet she pressed on, determined to finish what she had started. "If my William could see this," she whispered one night, clutching her journal. But she knew the day of reckoning was drawing near. Every cruelty, every insult, every blow was another nail in the coffin of Charlotte's relationship with her son. William had begun to notice a change in Charlotte's tone whenever she spoke about the maid. Her words dripped with disdain, and though he tried to dismiss it, his mother's warnings haunted him. He started visiting Charlotte unannounced, hoping to catch a glimpse of how she truly behaved. But Charlotte was clever. Whenever he arrived, she plastered on a smile, treating Victoria with forced politeness, masking the venom in her voice. Emily, however, had grown restless. She knew Charlotte was mistreating the maid beyond reason, and her conscience would no longer allow her to remain silent. One evening, she pulled William aside after dinner. "William, I don't think Charlotte is who you believe she is. The way she treats people she thinks are beneath her, it's cruel." William frowned, his heart torn. Could Emily be telling the truth? He wanted to believe in Charlotte, but Emily's sincerity was hard to ignore. Charlotte's desperation to secure her place as William's wife grew stronger. She began dropping heavy hints about marriage, pressuring him with talk of wedding venues and luxury honeymoons. "Don't you think it's time, Will? We've been together long enough." William smiled weakly, but doubts gnawed at him. Meanwhile, Victoria's health worsened. Emily brought her food and medicine in secret, helping her survive. Charlotte noticed, but dismissed it as Emily's foolish sympathy. One afternoon, William arrived unexpectedly and overheard Charlotte scolding Victoria harshly. "Useless old woman. You can't do anything right." His heart sank as he quietly stepped back, unseen. For the first time, He saw a glimpse of the cruelty Emily had warned him about. His chest tightened, but he needed undeniable proof before making the biggest decision of his life. Victoria knew the charade couldn't go on forever. She decided it was time to end it. The family had planned a formal introduction dinner, where Charlotte and her best friend Emily would finally meet William's mother. Charlotte was ecstatic, convinced it was her chance to impress and cement her place in the Collins family. "I'll charm her in no time," she boasted Emily, who remained skeptical. On the day of the dinner, Charlotte dressed in her finest gown, her diamond necklace glistening under the light. Emily accompanied her, quietly anxious about what awaited them. William greeted them warmly at the grand Collins estate, leading them into the drawing room. As Charlotte entered, her confidence was unshakable until she laid eyes on the woman standing at the far end of the room, her face drained of color, her mouth falling open in shock. It was the maid, the woman she had slapped, insulted, starved, standing there in an elegant gown, her presence regal and commanding. Charlotte froze, unable to process what she was seeing. That's your mother?" she stammered, her voice trembling. William's expression hardened as he turned to her. "Yes, Charlotte, this is Victoria Collins, my mother, the woman you've been mistreating all along." Charlotte fell to her knees instantly, her pride shattered. Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded. "William, I didn't know. Please forgive me. I love you. I truly do." But her words rang hollow, her cruelty exposed for all to see. Emily stood silently beside her, her own shock evident but her conscience clear. William's gaze softened when it fell on Emily. He recalled every kindness she had shown his mother, every gentle word, every act of compassion. Victoria stepped forward, her voice calm but cutting. "True love is not measured by how one treats equals, but by how one treats those with nothing to give in return. Emily showed me kindness when you showed me cruelty." The truth hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. The end of Charlotte's dreams had arrived, and the beginning of something new stirred in William's heart. Charlotte clung to William's arm, desperate to salvage the moment. "Please, William, I know. If I had known she was your mother, I would never have acted that way," she cried, her voice echoing in the grand dining hall. Her tears streamed freely, but the words only deepened the disappointment in William's eyes. He pulled away slowly, his voice calm but laced with anger. "So your kindness depends on who someone is? If you had known she was wealthy and powerful, you would have treated her better?" His words cut through Charlotte like glass, leaving her trembling on the floor. Victoria stood quietly, observing, her heart heavy yet resolved. She had always hoped she was wrong about Charlotte, but now the evidence lay before them all. Emily shifted uncomfortably, embarrassed for a friend, but unwilling to interfere. Charlotte crawled closer, her once proud demeanor shattered. "I can change. I'll do better, I promise. Don't throw away what we have." But to William, the foundation of trust had been destroyed. He saw only greed and cruelty where once he thought he saw love. His silence was louder than any outburst, leaving Charlotte sobbing in a puddle of regret. The silence was broken by Victoria, who turned her gaze toward Emily. And yet, in the midst of cruelty, kindness bloomed. She recounted, in front of them all, how Emily had offered food, money, and compassion when Charlotte had withheld them. William looked at Emily, his heart stirring in ways he hadn't allowed himself to acknowledge before. Her face flushed under the weight of his gaze, but her conscience was clear. Unlike Charlotte, she had nothing to hide. Then, in a moment that stunned everyone, William stepped forward, took Emily's hand, and knelt before her. "Emily Carter, you have shown my family the kindness and loyalty I prayed for. I was blind before, but not anymore. Will you marry me?" The room gasped. Emily covered her mouth in disbelief, her eyes wide. "William, are you serious?" she whispered. He nodded firmly, his hand steady, his heart certain. Behind them, Charlotte let out a strangled scream of betrayal, her world collapsing before her eyes. Charlotte rose to her feet in rage, her face streaked with tears. "How dare you, William? After everything I've given you, after all the nights we've shared, you propose to her? My own best friend." Her voice cracked as the reality of her downfall set in. The humiliation was unbearable, especially in front of Victoria, who remained composed and dignified. "This isn't fair. She set me up." Charlotte spat, pointing at Emily with trembling hands. But Emily didn't flinch. Her voice was calm but strong. "I didn't set you up, Charlotte. I only showed kindness when you showed cruelty. You exposed yourself." William's jaw tightened, his anger now mixed with pity. He realized Charlotte wasn't just cruel. She was consumed by envy and greed. "This isn't about fairness, Charlotte," he said coldly. "It's about truth, and the truth is clear." With that, Charlotte's knees buckled, and she fell back into the chair, defeated. Her sobs filled the room, but her pleas no longer carried any weight. Emily's heart raced as she looked into William's eyes. She had never dreamed of being in this position. For years, she had watched Charlotte pursue wealth and status, while she herself remained content with her modest life. And now here she was, holding the hand of one of the richest men in London, being asked to marry him. "William, I don't know what to say," she whispered, still overwhelmed. Victoria stepped closer, her voice warm. "Say yes, Emily. You are the kind of woman who will guard his heart, not his fortune. I see in you what I never saw in Charlotte." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, William, I will." The word sealed her fate and changed her life forever. The room erupted in stunned silence. Charlotte let out another wail, but this time no one listened. For the first time, William felt free, as if a heavy weight had lifted from his shoulders. News of William's sudden engagement spread quickly through London's elite circles. Whispers filled every gala and dinner table. The billionaire had abandoned his glamorous fiancée for her modest best friend. Some called it scandalous, others called it fate. Emily found herself thrust into a world she had never imagined, but her heart remained grounded. William made it clear. This was not about appearances, but about building a future rooted in truth and love. Charlotte, meanwhile, was drowning in humiliation. Her calls to William went unanswered, her desperate messages ignored. She even showed up at his office one afternoon, only to be turned away at the door. "Mr. Collins does not wish to see you," the receptionist told her firmly. The rejection crushed her pride, leaving her a shadow of the woman who once flaunted her beauty and charm. The society that once adored her now whispered behind her back, and she was left to face the consequences of her own choices. Charlotte wasn't ready to accept defeat. Consumed by anger, she began plotting ways to ruin Emily. "If I can't have him, she won't either," she muttered, pacing her apartment. She reached out to old friends in the media, feeding them twisted stories about Emily. Headlines soon appeared. "William Collins' fiancée, gold digger in disguise?" Though the articles were filled with lies, they sparked gossip that threatened Emily's newfound happiness. William, however, was quick to act. He stood publicly by Emily's side, denouncing the rumors in a televised interview. "The woman I love is no gold digger. She has shown my family more loyalty and kindness than I ever imagined. That is why I chose her." His declaration silenced many critics and only further humiliated Charlotte. Watching him defend Emily so fiercely broke what little spirit she had left. For the first time, Charlotte realized she had truly lost. The day of the wedding arrived, and the Collins estate glowed with grandeur. Guests from all over the UK's high society gathered to witness the union. Emily walked down the aisle in a simple yet elegant gown, her beauty radiant but natural. William's eyes filled with tears as he watched her approach, realizing how close he had come to a terrible mistake. Victoria sat in the front row, her heart swelling with pride. She had tested her son's fiancé, endured cruelty, and almost lost her strength in the process. But in the end, her sacrifice had safeguarded her son's future. As the vows were exchanged and William slipped a ring onto Emily's finger, the crowd erupted in applause. The sound of joy filled the air, echoing to the grand halls. After the ceremony, Victoria pulled Emily aside. Her eyes shimmered with tears. "You've proven yourself more than worthy of my son's love. I trust you to carry forward this family's name with grace." Emily hugged her tightly, her heart overwhelmed with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe this could ever be real." Meanwhile, William stood watching the two women who had changed his life in different ways. One through deception and cruelty, the other through kindness and humility. He finally understood the true meaning of wealth. It wasn't about riches or status, but about surrounding yourself with people of integrity. With Emily and Victoria by his side, he knew his future was secure. Charlotte spent the wedding day alone, her tears staining the silk of her once prized gowns. Her apartment, once filled with laughter and friends, was now a hollow shell. Calls went unanswered, and invitations stopped coming. The society that had adored her turned its back, leaving her with nothing but regret. She scrolled through pictures of the wedding online, her heart twisting with envy. Emily looked stunning, William looked blissfully happy, and Victoria glowed with pride. For the first time, Charlotte confronted the truth. She had lost not because Emily had won, but because she had never truly loved William. She had loved the wealth, the luxury, the status, but not the man himself. As the night grew darker, Charlotte whispered to herself, "If only I had been different." But regrets could not rewrite the past, and she was left in silence. Weeks after the wedding, life at the Collins estate had settled into a new rhythm. Emily embraced her role as William's wife with grace, working alongside him to expand the Collins charitable foundations. She insisted on visiting orphanages and shelters, reminding William of the importance of giving back. Together, they built not just wealth, but a legacy of compassion. Victoria often watched them from her study window, her heart at peace. She had taken a great risk by disguising herself as a maid, but it had revealed truths that saved her son's future. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, William raised his glass to new beginnings, to truth, love, and loyalty. Emily smiled, her hand resting on his, and Victoria joined the toast. The Collins family legacy was secure, not because of fortune, but because of the love that now defined their home. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.